Okay, welcome to Let's Talk Bohurt. On this podcast, we go through a few finer points that lads tend to get a bit wrapped up on in Bohurt, discuss them. This week on the show, we've got Dan Winter, who's the returning UK team champion and a very successful fighter in White Company. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing well.
It's good to see you again. It's been a long year. For those that don't know you, if you could just give us a quick rundown, a bit of an introduction to yourself, who you are and how you've got into the sport and your career so far.
My name is Daniel Winter. I've been in the sport now since 2015. My first Battle of the Nations was 2016, and I've done Battle of the Nations ever since. I've represented the country 4 times in longsword, and 3 times in the heavyweight. Is it 3 times or twice? I can't remember how many times I've done pro fighting at Battle of the Nations now on that one. But yes, I've done the heavyweight representation since Battle of the Nations ever since they introduced it as a category. And then, I've done Bohurt in every single year. 5s, 21s, which then became 30s, and obviously 12s when they introduced that. I've taken silver medal in the heavyweight division Battle of the Nations, and I took 4th last time, and I've come 4th in longsword at the last Battle of the Nations. I also have obviously many medals from various other tournaments. And
you brought home a bit of silverware of White Company, haven't you? That's a well-known fact.
Well, yeah. Well, I thought I'd give a rundown,
Well, I mean, that's good to know. You've been around the block for a while now. Yeah, absolutely. So you've been around the block for a while now. You've seen a lot of people come into the sport, a lot of people join it in your time. What would you say is the most common mistake people are making as they're trying to break into the sport and starting their own training, for example? What's the most common denominator that lets people down?
Footwork.
Footwork.
Everyone constantly. Even in a lot of long-term fighters, their footwork is diabolical.
Yeah.
It's really shit. I mean, let's face it, footwork is boring to train.
It's one of the least sexy things to train, isn't it?
It most certainly is. But yeah, it is very, very, very boring. But you cannot throw good punches or good sword strikes without good footwork. You can't position yourself in throws or wrestling without good footwork. You can't avoid getting thrown without good footwork. It's literally the basis for anything you do, but it is the most neglected. Everyone gets on a pell, and so often
everyone wants to hit shit, don't they?
I see, and so often I see them on a pell, constantly just hitting a pell, and their strike with their arm might get good, but you watch them and they're sort of feet together or too far apart,
tight roping, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and then they never learn to develop good hits and never learn how to respond to them. And it's a massive flaw. It's the biggest flaw. Like I said, even lots of really long-term fighters that I see, even in other countries, you watch them fight and their footwork's just terrible. And it really is the basis. It should be the first thing you train and the thing you give the most time to.
It takes me back. I remember one of the most important lessons you taught me was, I remember you saying it offhandedly during a training one time, the more important or exciting something is to train, the more boring it is to train. Because you used to take us through a lot of footwork drills and all that sort of stuff, and they were dog boring drills, but it was all the important stuff because people wanted to start throwing each other or hitting pels and do all the exciting stuff and all the really sexy, cool looking stuff, but it's walking in a straight line and turning on the spot. It is important. How would you say to remedy that? Personally, I'd like the walking road system that Ukolov put out in his YouTube videos a while ago. I like those sort of drills. What's your way of training footwork?
I like the videos that Ukolov put out. I think they're very easy to follow and really good for beginners. I have done martial arts most of my life, so my footwork comes in as a combination of wrestling and boxing footwork traditionally. These days, I spend a lot of time when it comes to footwork practicing explosive movements in my footwork.
Yeah.
Because obviously I've done footwork so much over my whole life from other martial arts and then into the sport. I can walk very confidently from one side of the room to another.
It sounds stupid, doesn't it? But a lot of people do fall over their own feet.
Yeah, or as they walk, you see their whole weight shift to their front foot, and then their whole weight shift to their back foot, rather than staying constantly in balance throughout, which is what they should be achieving, constant balance all the time. So personally, for me, when I'm on the Pel now, I practice dynamic changes of position.
Okay.
Because this is obviously more of an experienced thing. But for me, obviously, what I'm trying to develop is moving to the outside of an opponent, getting around their shield, getting advantageous position.
Yeah, coming off that power line.
Yeah, and doing that. But if you haven't mastered basic footwork, then I would stick to it. When I was first learning the sport and having to redevelop my footwork, what I did a lot of was short practices throughout the day. Because let's face it, if you're going to go train in an evening and you're going to go train for 90 minutes or 2 hours, you don't want to be spending 30 minutes of that doing footwork.
No, not really.
You don't.
No.
You will shoot yourself.
No.
But 2 minutes while the kettle boils.
Yeah, that's that's saying like from the Uklov drills, you could pick up little bits and pieces, and then say as the kettle boils, or I used to do like stepping around corners, or when I'm going between offices or something, shifting around corners, like people are like, what the fuck are you doing? And you're there pretending you got a fucking sword in your hand, and you're like, nothing.
Yeah.
But it's taking advantage of the little wins.
Yes, it is, because footwork is something you can practice anywhere. You don't need teammates necessarily. You can do it by yourself.
Yeah.
And if you just do 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there, stop, and like we all do it. How often do you find yourself stood on one leg, just casually leaning in a really bad position? And if you take a moment to go, this is a really shit position, and then just get into a quick fighting stance, feel that balance again, and then it's called resetting, and it's something that we do a lot when we fight. Somebody punches you, you stagger, and you have to quickly reset your footwork.
Yeah.
And you can practice that reset throughout the day. Every time you find yourself stood in a bad position, do a quick reset.
I do something similar every time I turn around and my dog's looking at me. In a fine stance, go poke with my foot, and we have a little fight, and it's good fun. But it's little wins. That's brilliant. Brilliant bit of advice there. If I go back to something you just said that you've been doing martial arts most of your life, what would you say? What disciplines have had the best transfer over to HMB for you?
Personally, I think Muay Thai, or Muay Thai, or however you wish to pronounce that, is one of the best ones, because people often will refer to like catch wrestling or MMA. The problem with both of those systems and judo is a lot of like judo throws, a lot of them, unless you do no-gi judo, rely on grabbing hold of the gi.
Yeah, grips.
All that throws do not work if you cannot grab a gi.
Yeah.
They do have good throws that do work, but then you need to find somewhere that does no-gi judo. MMA, lots of their throws are sacrificial. Their footwork is designed to get them in close, tackle the person to the floor, and then beat them on the ground. That doesn't work for us.
Not at all. No.
So this is why I like Muay Thai for our sport, because the strike work is based off standing, and their catch and all of their throws work off catching someone and kicking their feet out, or very fast, explosive little like trips.
Setting up and catching people in bad footwork, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. And so I think Muay Thai is one of the best ones. If you can find someone that does no-gi judo, then fantastic. But there's not many places that do no-gi judo.
Something I'll add to on the Muay Thai is the the attitude around that sport as well. Because I've trained a few different bits and pieces recently, and I found the training in Muay Thai tends to be quite focused and hard, and they don't mess about. Whereas go to BJJ, yeah, they'll train hard, but it's a friendlier sort of counter culture to it. Judo, again, it doesn't tend to be it's trained like a sport rather than a fight.
Yeah.
Whereas Muay Thai, it's like you're just going to be kicking each other up and down a training hall, and you're going to be doing rounds until you're in a heap. So it's got really good attitude that I think carries over as well on the mental side of it.
That is very true. Muay Thai requires quite a good pain tolerance.
Yeah, it's not
from the training I've done in it. No, and this is another reason. I find a lot of beginners are horrified or shocked at the level of pain you can feel in armour. I've known so many people get in armour, they're all excited, and you hit them and they're like, that really hurts.
But you didn't die.
Like, yes.
You didn't die. That's what the armour's for. Like, it's worrying if something doesn't hurt, because that means you're going into shock, mate. That's
yeah. And at the same time, if your armour is so thick, so heavy that you're not feeling any pain, then you're probably going to be either exhausted too fast to actually do anything in a fight.
This is something I spoke to about the guys on the last podcast that came up. We talk about helmets, that new people tend to protect themselves to the point of danger. Like if you're wearing too much armour, and heat is the biggest enemy. Like we've all seen people go down with heat, and that is the biggest problem. Going on from that mental point there, what do you think is the most underrated component of success for yourself or others that you've seen? Because obviously we all know cardio is king, we all know certain bits and pieces, but what do you think is the underrated thing that gets that separates the winners from the losers?
It's always mindset. Always. Those moments when you're stuck in a bad headlock and you're being choked and you're like almost vomiting because the thing's going into your neck here. It's those key moments, and we've all felt them. How, you're in those bad positions and you have that moment in your head when you think, just take a knee, just surrender.
It can all be over right now. I'm doing it to myself at this point.
Yeah, and we've all felt it in the gym as well, when you're there and you're like, I don't want to do that last set.
Yeah.
Who's going to know if I don't do that last set?
Or when you're looking at your trainers getting ready to go to the gym and you're like, oh, it's getting late. Should I?
Yeah.
Yeah. We are our own worst enemies.
And it's those moments that make the difference. Because when you have a strong mindset, if you feel yourself thinking, take a knee, surrender, give up, you've got to tell yourself no. No, you won't. You are not happy to take seconds. You are not happy with it. You will not surrender. You will not give in. Because, and this is something I've said to a lot of new guys, if I go down because I've been getting choked out, if I give up and lie on that floor, then what's going to happen to the rest of my teammates?
You don't want to be the first domino, do you?
No, to a 5 versus 4. And then to a 5 versus, it's going to, and if I've gone down because I gave up, and I know I gave up, then, and I watch my teammates want to get fucked up, how's that going to make you feel?
There's no worse feeling than being on the floor and seeing your mate get a right kicking. And like if you get put down legitimately and you see it happening, you're like, oh, damn, mate, I wish I could help. But if you've just, like, because you're exhausted or something, you're taking a knee, and then you see your mate getting his teeth pushed through his back end, you're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And that mindset starts not in the fight. That mindset starts in your training. Yes. It starts because you set yourself a routine. You say, I'm going to train 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. I am going to get up for that run in the morning. Yeah. It starts there. That's where the mindset starts. You tell yourself you are going to do it, and you do it. You don't just say it. You don't talk, it's going to be tomorrow. It's always tomorrow. That mindset has to start because you make it start. And then from there, it will grow. every time you get a little win, every time you do something you don't want to do because you told yourself you are going to do it anyway, you strengthen your mindset. And over time, that mindset will become steel. And then when you're in that list and you're getting choked, or somebody's hitting you with a halberd and you're in pain, that mindset will be what wins at you. Not because you could do more reps than somebody else, not because you could run another mile than somebody else, but because when you're in that list, there is no surrender. You push, you push, you push. But that mindset isn't, like I said, developed in the fight. That mindset is developed in all the little bits of your life, in your training, and in those bits of moments of discipline.
Back, as we said, small wins. That was a brilliant technique.
Yeah.
But it's people, because I've had periods where I do a lot of training in the week. People sometimes say, like, how do you get motivated for it? And I personally think you've got to step away from being motivated in things. So I think motivation is a very poor regime maker. You should move away from motivation to discipline.
Yes,
absolutely. I didn't go to the gym every day and then do 2 hours of jiu-jitsu in the evenings because I was motivated for it. I did it because that's what I do. My routine was I would go to the gym, and then in the evening I went straight to jiu-jitsu because that's what I done. I had discipline in my routine rather than motivation. Sometimes I'd be outside that gym looking at it like, but it's what I've done, so you turn up. So following the same sort of pattern there of underrated things, what is the most underrated and underutilized part of preparation for competition for you? Like, again, so as all the physical training goes on, what do people skip out on the most when it comes to getting ready for competition in particular?
In my experience, sleep and rest. Put your fucking phone down and get to sleep.
Yeah.
If I know I've got a tournament coming in a couple of weeks, I make the real effort to get to bed early. I plan it so I will be in bed and I will get 8 to 9 hours sleep every night. Yeah. So that when I get to that tournament, I am rested. I am ready to go. And as much as your nerves, like your body's energy, because it knows a fight's coming, tells you go into the gym, do that last set. Don't. No amount of training 2 weeks before a tournament will make you any fitter, any stronger, or any more prepared. All your preparation is done the months, the years that you've been doing the sport leading up to that tournament. And all you could do in those next 2 weeks is rest, heal, stretch, do mobility work, so your body is ready. Eat healthy food. So that when you get to that tournament, you are ready. Yeah, sleep is the best supplement. I've made a bit of an effort recently to get to bed an hour, half hour early, and I've really been feeling the benefit. But yeah, I agree with you. And there's a common theme here when it comes to stepping away from being good to being great. It's all the little unsexy things that you got to do. Like no one wants to, how do I become a better fighter? Go to bed earlier. No one wants to hear that, do they? But it is the important things. So that's your preparation. One thing lads always want to hear about as well is kit. So I think we've got a fairly well aligned ideas on kit at the moment. What's your harness look like at the moment for Bohurt? It's got articulated legs, and it's got articulated arms, both for the extra joint protection. Yeah. I go for steel on the bony areas, i.e. elbows, knee, head, hands. And I do go for steel on the thighs because the thighs take the most punishment. It's a big target when you start that little squat, isn't it? Yes. But everything else, I go for titanium on all the big squidgy bits. I do try and drop as much weight on my kit as possible. Your target goal is really your armor should weigh no more than a third of your body weight, preferably as close to a quarter of your body weight as possible. That's really is your target goal. If you could get it down to a quarter of your body weight, you will not notice the weight of it on you. If it starts to creep past a quarter of your body weight up to a third, you start noticing it. And if it's heavier than a third of your body weight, you've got problems. You ain't interested in that, are you? No. And
you're a confirmed member of the Wolf Rib Master Race as well, aren't you?
Yes, I do prefer the Wolf Rib. People talk about better breathing. For me, when people talk about better breathing, what they're actually talking about is not that you actually struggle for breath in another helmet, it's that the air gets very moist and warm.
Yeah, it gets claustrophobic, doesn't it? Yeah.
And if anyone's ever spent any time in a sauna, it's not comfortable to breathe. Would you want to exercise in a sauna? No. And that's really what it is. It's not that you can't get air. It's the moisture you breathe out trapped in a lot of other helmets. Well, in the Wolf Rib, it's there. But for me, the most important factor of the Wolf Rib is just the vision.
Yeah, it's that peripheral stuff that you've got as well, isn't it? It's
and well, your hands can't hit what the eye can't see.
Yeah, I mean they can try, but you flail about it all you want. People talk about the danger of a Wolf Rib. I've never really seen anyone get badly hurt in a Wolf Rib because the way it comes out. I think the most bum twitchy moment I've ever seen in a Wolf Rib was yourself. I think it was in Plymouth where you had the longsword come through the bottom and out the top.
So Rib, this is a personal setting does. We have no bars over the eyes, really big holes because we want maximum vision. Now, I do not recommend that for any fighter that is not heavily experienced and highly skilled, because we have huge eye slots. And I have had stuff come through those, but that's because I don't have the safety bar up here. Not because it's a Wolf Rib, it's because I've chosen to put the safety bar off, because having anything in front of my eye is just annoying. It gives me
I think mine are offset to about a 45-degree angle, so still got the protection there, but it's what I look at, I can see. Yeah,
but for me, I found, because I had it set there as well, but I found that when the sword strikes were coming in, they come in at an outside angle. And I found it made it much harder for those final points of blocking.
Okay.
But obviously, like I said, that's a personal choice. Like when you're doing high-level pro fighting with dueling, where you're talking, people are striking gaps within like centimeters of accuracy. That's the sort of difference you're talking about with a blind spot. Most fighters, a Wolf Rib is very safe. All our strikes come in horizontal. The Wolf Rib will be away from the face as a big dome. So even if things do come through, like let's say cross guards, when someone punches you, they're well away from the face.
Yeah, we went through this in the last one, which legally is 3.5 centimetre from your fists, as long as you're that however way. It's gold.
I mean, if you're wearing any helmet, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Wolf Rib or it's a clap visor, if the visor is so close to the face that you can get a cross guard through a slot and into the face, it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Not to mention, if it's the visor's that close to your face, at some point, some hefty, massive fighter is going to punch you in the face, and it's going to break your nose.
This is why I've always had problems, you know. I nearly had to go for a bloody hound skull at some point.
So, you know, if it's coming the appropriate distance in the face, nothing comes through. And I've always found with the Wolf Rib, you have two bars, obviously, and when something does come through slightly, and you flinch, because we all flinch if something comes towards our face, the two bars catch whatever
and the bars are always at an angle that makes it
very difficult. So to be honest, a lot of people panic about the idea of a Wolf Rib, but I have found them to be very safe. The only danger in any helmet is the size of your eye slot. And like I said, as long as you have a safety bar over the eye slot, you're safe in any helmet.
Ideal. Is there anything else about your kit that you think is different from the norm or outside the average that you think more people should adopt?
My Bohurt kit. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say any of it's particularly outside the average. Other than all my leaves are riveted on, the leaves on the knees. And I find that because I've had a few sets of kit now over the 5 years coming up to 6 years I've done the sport. And always what cracks is the leaf along the elbow or the knee every time. And what I found is that if your leaf is riveted on, then it doesn't crack. Worst case scenario, the rivet breaks, and And worst case scenario, if the rivet breaks, you just re-rivet it back on, and it's not a problem. Because I've seen over time, a lot of people have, and this includes myself, need to replace kit for no other reason than it's cracked along the leaf line.
Where it just splits in,
Yeah, splits in, and then you lose the whole knee. That's the biggest difference, I would say, my kit has. I do have inside leaves as well on the inside of the knee, which are also riveted on, very small leaves. You are seeing those on more and more kits. I wouldn't say they're unusual, but a lot of beginner fighters don't seem to have them, and I think that's just because they're not aware. I feel that a lot of people make beginner fighters aware of having a small leaf on the inside of the knee, because if you're, obviously when you fight, one leg's always forwards, whether it's your left or your right, and when you're stood forwards and someone swings in an arc down, without the leaf there, and this happened to me a few times in old kit, sometimes particularly if it's an axe, you can get hit in the back of the knee, not deliberately, but
or it can slide down off the edge of your cues and
then come into it. And I've had that happen. And it's no one's fault other than that there's just a big gap there.
It's a fight, and these things happen. Okay, brilliant. That's
the inside of the knee, then it just stops all these problems. And if your kit doesn't have one already, it's very easy just to cut a piece of metal and rivet it on.
Oh, awesome. That's brilliant bit of advice there. Okay, so moving on from there, obviously you're very well decorated from your career so far. What's your next goal, personally or as a team, or what are you set on next, apart from maybe actually having a tournament at some point in the near future?
Well, there is that one, but I mean, as a team, our goal is the same as it's always been. We want to be the best in the world. We all train very hard all the time for that. We've taken 3rd place at Battle of the Nation in the fives last time, and our aim is to take gold next time. Personally, my goal, my next one is I'm going to take the heavyweight position at Battle of the Nations. And then once I've done that, my goal is to go for the heavyweight belt.
Oh, beautiful. Are we anticipating a massive weight cut for that again this year? that was pretty hellish for you last time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember you getting onto that weighing pedal and just be like, oh, thank God, I can eat again.
No, last time, 5 kilos, 5 weeks, not fun, don't do it. No, I've been much more careful this time. I've been gradually losing weight for quite a while now. I'm safely, and I do mean safely, down to 92 kilos. Where before I always sat at sort of 95 to 100 and then had to weight cut down for tournaments. I've been making that extra effort to just eat a little less cake.
Well, personally, that sounds miserable and I don't like it. So you can keep that. So final point for us is, what does a week's training look like for you then? What's your regime?
Well, at the minute, my regime is Monday, I get up at 6 in the morning and go for a 5 kilometer run. Then Monday evening, I do weightlifting. I keep it simple, just deadlift, bench press, and then some like core work and work on glutes and my posterior chain to try and keep good posture. I go for max effort on a Monday for max power development. Then I rest all Tuesday. I don't train on a Tuesday. Wednesday, again, get up for 6 in the morning for a run again. Then Wednesday evening, I do armored dueling and pro fight training with my team. Then I rest Thursday again. Sometimes, depending how I feel, Thursday evening I will do maybe mobility work, some very light exercise, not for fitness or strength, but to help correct any imbalances that are happening. because fighting is all from the front. So we tend to develop a lot of muscles at the front, pulling us forwards.
Yeah.
So then I'll do some rowing, some pulls to help straighten myself back up and correct that. Then Friday, it's get up for running at 6 a.m. again. And then Friday evening, we do soft kit. Again, it's duels and pro fighting in soft kit, with an emphasis on like technique, as opposed to just beating each other up. And then Saturdays I rest, and then Sundays it's Bohurt training in armour. Usually lasts for about between 3 and 4 hours with the team. You'll notice that my training is very, one day on, one day off.
Yeah.
I find that works best for me to have some stimulation in the morning, like cardio, and then do some, I say strength work, because when you're wrestling a lot, there's a lot of strength involved in that, but there is obviously
strength is the basis of everything, really, isn't it?
It is. As a natural who doesn't take steroids or drugs, a lot of people make the mistake of not resting enough.
Oh yeah.
So they'll go and they'll train, and they put all this training into their program, and they forget to program rest.
Yes.
And when I say rest, I don't just mean days of rest. It's choosing to vary your exercise over the week. So it's not always just go in and do, lots of bench pressing or lots of rowing. You've got to vary what you do. And I just find that one day, full body, one day on, one day off. So you're training like 4 days a week. I train obviously back to back Sunday, Monday. But we train Sunday morning. I'm in fact training all this morning. So then I have all Sunday afternoon and evening before then I run again Monday morning, and then train again Monday night. I only go super heavy on weights once a week. I feel that you don't really need to be lifting more than twice a week as a fighter, and even then I would say you only lift heavy once a week, and the second time you lift weights should be working on hitting the muscles that you don't normally hit. So like your posterior chain a lot, back more, maybe small support muscles around your shoulders, and maybe your tricep, your forearms, your neck. But even then, I don't take anything to exhaustion, because you're training 4 times a week and you're doing a lot of explosive training with a lot of sparring. You can't afford to be exhausted with sparring.
No.
You can't afford to be exhausted on training with your team, because that's where the real training will come in. What I do in a gym for fitness and strength helps support that. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how fit I am or how strong I am. If I have no fighting technique, I will lose anyway. So I dedicate as much energy to that as possible.
So what you're saying there about needing to be rested when you're going to do your technique training, mistake people often make is they think practice makes perfect, when it's perfect practice makes perfect. If you go in tired and you just do shit technique, you build up bad muscle memory, you build up bad technique, you do bad practice, you don't get better. This is why I don't like new guys particularly training on their own so much, because you see them just ingraining in horrible stuff, really. But
equally, a lot of people in our sport, they will focus on, in my opinion, the wrong type of training. They'll go and do like a 45-minute CrossFit workout, which is great, will make you very strong. But the problem is we only fight for 10 minutes, assuming that you climb 2 rounds out.
Nobody wants to make you go that long, do they?
No, like in my entire career, I've had 2 fights, that have gone longer, and that's because they were in finals of a tournament when there is no time limit, and you end up doing like 30 odd minutes of fighting, and
And that's an extreme example. At the other end of that, do you remember the first year we went to Flanders? The whole tournament, I think we put up the videos and we done total 4 minutes worth of fighting in the entire tournament.
Yeah, exactly. So what, in my opinion, as a fighter, you're looking for, and it's not just my opinion, there is actually lots of examples of this, where what you'd really be training for is for max effort, let's say 5 minutes, followed by a good rest, followed by max effort again. So if you're going to do conditioning or something like that, it should be more along those lines. Or if I'm training for pro fighting, I will do like 3 minutes of max effort, followed by like 90 seconds of rest, by 3 minutes and max effort, 90 seconds of rest, 3 minutes of max effort. And I don't need to really do more than that. Because even if I could do 4 minutes of fighting every round, that doesn't necessarily, in terms of fitness, that doesn't necessarily make a difference. Like, we're only fighting for 3. Just because you can do 4 doesn't mean you can do more in 3.
It's better to be good at 3 than mediocre at 4.
Yeah. So that's how I tend to program most of my conditioning work, and my focus on fitness is I want to be really high intensity for short periods, followed by a longer rest by short periods.
It's about having that deep hole rather than a wide puddle, isn't it?
Yeah. And what I find is that over time, I've been able to do more work in that period. And sometimes it can be very hard to measure, because normally people measure fitness by, I did 30 minutes last time, I've managed 35 minutes now. I've done 10 reps, now I'm going to 12 reps. But when you're doing, no matter what, I'm going to do just 3 minutes or 5 minutes, then you start having to do workouts that are like, how many of something can I do in 5 minutes? How hard can I push in 5 minutes? And obviously there is only so fast you can move, so you might legitimately get to a point where within 5 minutes you've done as many burpees as is humanly possible because you physically couldn't move any faster. Then that might legitimately happen if you get to a super fit point. But if you've reached that point, then you're already super fit, so it becomes a question of how much more do you honestly need to do. Top Russian MMA fighters often say that one of the mistakes a lot of Western MMA fighters make is they focus too much on fitness, not enough on skills and developing skills. And that's because a lot of MMA fighters, if you look at their routines, are like workout in the morning, then you do some like technique work, then you'll like rest, then you'll work out in the evening, followed by technique work. While a lot of the Russian MMA fighters, they're
born on the mat.
Their day is just, we're going to roll on the mat a lot. We're going to spend lots of time on a punch bag. And then at the end of the day, they do maybe 15 minutes of really, really intense conditioning work. And that's it. Because they've just spent all day rolling on a mat or practicing on a punch bag.
It's a more fun version of fitness as well, isn't it?
It is.
All right, well, that's a lot for the lads to digest there. Before we finish up, is there anything else you wanted to put out to the community that are listening?
Battle of the Nations is next year. If you're not already training, but you expect a spot, go and train. Look in that mirror, ask yourself why you are not training, and get out there and train. Because, well, as I said last time, I would rather take a short chain than have a weak link.
Absolutely. Right, and that is the gospel truth there. Thank you very much for your time, Dan, and we'll hope to have you back on again soon. For the rest of you out there listening, hopefully later on in the week we'll have a panel on to talk about weapons. Subscribe here and listen to us next time. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, and have a good day.